Welcome to the arena. We missed you. A lot has changed since we last saw robots do battle on the field. Each matchup now consists of 3 rounds, with Roboteers, FRC Shooter, and Neutrons making an appearance. Consistency is rewarded for our competitors, as it is the sum of the scores across all 3 robots that decides who will emerge victorious. We start in the pit, where our lowest seeds battle it out for a chance to play against the well-revered gatekeepers. Winners there advance to the semifinals, where we will then find out who are the 2 with a chance to play for victory. There are no guarantees, no resets, and no second chances. When everything is on the line, who comes out on top? We start our matches in the pit with 2 experienced players ready to fight for their lives. Podster 5846 is a flexible player that can be dangerous with the best of them, depending on the day. Not to be underrated, he has the flexibility of having played extensively on all 3 robots in multiplayer games. Finishing the latter in Division 3, success in today's tournament will heavily depend on the consistency he shows on the field. R2655, the latter championships finalist, is not going to go down without a fight. Despite his rank peaking in Division 4, he has had some very strong performances with in-game contributions above the 250-point threshold. Another player not committed to any particular robot, he has been grinding single player to increase his seeding for this event, which may prove helpful in due time.
Alright, starting off the Roboteers, we have Codster 5846 versus Dar 2655. Starting off this match, Dar getting a little bit of a slow start off the line, far behind Codster. Codster already lining up to shoot all of his power cells before Dar can even get off the line. We come towards the end of auto, and it is in Codster's favor by about 10 points, but Dar manages to slip a little bit closer to Codster. 2 minutes remaining. Codster grabbing the back line. Dar picking up and shooting from the truss. Codster shooting from over in the trench run. Dar managing to surpass Codster, but not for long. Codster managing to shoot his cycle in and pulling back up to 82, which is ahead of Dar. 1 minute, 45 seconds. Dar unloading his hopper. Codster collecting power cells from the rendezvous. Dar very, very, very close to getting that capacity on the power port. Both robots lining up and shooting. Codster reaches capacity. Dar reaches capacity. Both return to get some more balls. Dar opting to spin the control panel, having a little bit of trouble with it, but he does manage to get it spun. 1 minute, 15 seconds, and 119 to 142. Codster in the lead. Codster's lead is slowly advancing, and the gap is becoming greater as the match goes on, although Dar has managed to pull it a little bit closer, but will it be enough as we have 1 minute left in the match? Codster opting to not spin the control panel, instead going to shoot those power cells. Dar picking up some power cells, Codster picking up power cells, both heading back towards the power port and firing off their cycles. 45 seconds left. Codster fairly far ahead, although the gap has tightened between the two robots, Dar having closed that lead. 30 seconds left. We are entering end game. Codster firing his cycle. Dar having a little bit of trouble with the control panel. He misses the correct color and will have to return to the control panel with 20 seconds left. That is going to hurt his final score. 15 seconds. Cod collecting his last cycle, lining up, not lining up quite yet, but he will line up soon. He better, in order to shoot those off and climb on time. Both are going to have to start thinking about climbing as we enter the last 3 seconds. Both get up. Codster not balanced, and that is it. The score ends at 317 to 305 with Codster the win.
All right, so this first inertia match, we're going to see Codster 5846 versus Dar 2655. Really excited to see how this one shakes up, because I know these two, not necessarily inertia mains, but they're here in the pit, and we're seeing, as the match gets underway, different autonomous pathings coming out a little bit here. We're going to see Codster the first to fire. He's going to have an early advantage here over Dar by about 8 points. We're going to finish off that second cycle, and it will stay Codster advantage, but plenty of time left for things to shake up. We've got Dar 2655. He's going. That's a full cycle, and of course the inertia with those turreting abilities, that is going to help out with the accuracy. Codster struggling a little bit with his pathing right now. He's kind of missing some of those easier power cells, making some adjustments as he has to drive around, so it's not going to help him out, but he does have the lead for the time being. 8 points separating these two robots. I'm going to see Dar picking up from the human player station while Codster firing off another full cycle. The name of the game is really getting as many power cells as you can into that inertia hopper. As we saw Dar with a bit of a smaller cycle right there, that's not going to help him out as much. He is still looking to bring back that lead, but again, the color wheel, an option for maybe some extra points coming up this round. And we do see Codster going to the color wheel now. That's going to be an extra 10 points as he does the rotation. We're going to also see Dar now making his way around the field. Remember, Codster getting an extra 10 points for that already early on, so that's very beneficial to him in his scoring capabilities. We're going to see Dar. He's trying to clean up the field along that guardrail, get those power cells in, just focusing on raw scoring for the time being with a minute left on the clock. It is a lot closer now than it has been the whole match, and with that being said, of course, Codster firing off another round of shots. Dar responding with some of his own. We're going to see 45 seconds left on the clock, and they are separated by the slimmest of margins. We're going to see who's able to fire off bigger cycles, and if one can sneak in a cycle before the climbs. We've seen climbs be the make or break factor in plenty of matches this season. Since this game came out, it's one of those things where you need to nail it. It's not an option. We see Codster now going for the positioning of the color wheel. That'll get him an extra 20 points, while Dar instead going for another cycle. He's avoiding that color wheel altogether and going to go for one more cycle, potentially two, with 15 seconds left on the clock. Codster firing off another round as well. Dar lifting his climber very early here. He wants to make sure he gets on the bar. We're going to see who's able to make it to the climb at the end. It is 271 to 303, but as the climbs go up, advantage stays to Codster. He held it the whole time. 338 to 306, just outclassed and autonomous, carried it the whole way through. We'll see what happens with his next robot and go from there.
This match, we have Codster 5846 versus Dar 2655. So both these players looking to play well this match on the OG. We know that Dar is a little bit more experienced on the OG than the other robots, and Codster is as well. So it looks like they're both going for traditional autonomous mode. Dar with a slight lead at the very beginning, but Codster takes it back. Looks like Dar got a little bit more off in autonomous than Codster did there, with about a 10-point lead heading into the teleop period. And Dar is able to get his first cycle off before Codster. So he's up to 20-odd points here, although Codster bringing it back closer, looking like he had a few more balls in that hopper. So actually, it's a really close one power cell match at this point. But still, Dar is ahead in terms of cycling, getting it back up to that 30-point lead, but Codster right behind him. Although he did jam a little bit, but Dar up to his next cycle already. So Dar's up to a solid lead, just cycling quicker than Codster is this match. So 20 points here. Codster looking for the cycle near the loading station. Dar going for the other side of the field, so Codster might catch up a little bit here. Yep, it's about 10 points. Dar's still ahead in terms of cycling, though. So Dar has a semi-comfortable lead at this point, but that doesn't mean he's going to stop scoring as many points as he can. For sure, something he's not going to do as he collects some from the center. Codster brings it close again, but Dar still looks like a solid one cycle ahead of Codster at this point, just consistently getting a cycle whenever Codster does, and he just has more points at this point. So looking like a solid lead for Dar, 20 or so points with a little under a minute left. You can see Codster putting them right in, and Dar, as he's been doing this entire match, is putting them in right after. So little over 30 points here. Codster shooting from the side, not able to get inners there, having a little bit of trouble there. So that'll cost him a little bit. He needs to get inners if he's hoping to catch up to Dar, as we see Dar consistently getting the 3-pointers instead of 2. Yeah, once again, Codster missing some inners, although that's not something he wants to do. And there are 15 seconds left, so it looks like people are probably going to go for one more cycle and then go for the climb. And Codster has to hope Dar screws up his climb in order to get this win here. Although, yeah, I mean, you would need to completely miss. Codster would need to get the balance as well. So going up, and Dar takes the victory, 367 to 334. So a solid win for Dar. Not a blowout by any sense of the imagination, but it wasn't too close.
Dar 26-55 falls, despite a valiant attempt at a comeback in the last match. With a final score differential of only 11 points, Codster 58-46 was able to hold on to his advantage from the first 2 rounds to move on and face the gatekeepers. Josh 4910 brings the experience in this round, and is known for being one of the original single-player FRC shooter world record holders. But as part of the original generation of players, he's had to come back and learn how to perform on Roboteers and Neutrons. Landing himself in the pit for his first matchup has practice made perfect for this experienced player. Meet Waxton, a young up-and-coming talent who brings energy into the arena. While his multiplayer experience is below average to his competitors, ending in Division 5, his match contribution scores can make you think he was the only one on the field. He's in his element here, with recent single-player performances putting him in contention for world records. A force to be reckoned with, we will see if that young energy is enough to catapult him through this round.
Moving on now, still on the inertias, we're going to see Waxton versus Josh 4910, and this is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. Waxton, known for his single-player abilities, Josh 4910 a little bit more versatile. We'll see who's able to get more power cells, and we see Josh going for a potentially more conservative auto, but losing some of those power cells crucially with that inertia hopper. Early 32 to 30, we'll see if Waxton can get some more. Josh will do that as well. Looks like it is going to actually be a slight advantage to Josh. With all that being said, 3 points, though, 69 to 66. Plenty of time. Waxton, though, going over the rendezvous zone, driving on top of some power cells, losing his center of gravity for a moment there. That's not going to help him. He is down, and he needs to change something quickly if he wants to get this lead. We see Josh going to the opponent trench zone. Waxton fired off some more shots. He's in the lead for the time being, Josh. Now, putting those up into that inner port. Again, inertia with the turret makes it nice and easy for that accuracy. Waxton going around the field. This one is close, and it's going to come down to this next cycle here. If Josh is able to get some more power cells in that hopper, looks like he had a little bit of a jam there. He will extend his lead now. That's 6 points as he goes to the human player station, while Waxton firing those off. That's a full cycle on the inertia right there, and that went all into that inner port. Very well done for him. But The time is still ticking. 1:18 left in the match, and it's only 6 points to Waxton, so it is not something to rely on right now. He needs to keep performing because Josh is coming. He had a bigger cycle that time. It brings it to a tie, but Waxton will respond quickly. That gives him the advantage back. 60 seconds left on the clock now, and it's still anybody's game here. This one's gone back and forth the entire time. Josh 4910, he put up another cycle. He went back to the rendezvous zone. Neither of these two robots looking to the color wheel just yet. We'll see if they decide to go that way. Waxton, crucially, having left the red human player station and the blue human player station, that's plenty of power cells available without having to travel over that rendezvous zone. We're going to see 215 to 218 the current score, but they are going to keep putting up power cells until the clock strikes 0 from the looks of it here. 236 to 234, make that 239. It's going to be very close. Josh struggling there. He drove over a power cell. Looked like the bumpers got a little bit back for him. It looks like he had a little bit of difficulty getting across the rendezvous zone, but he was back. He fired off that cycle there with 15 seconds left on the clock, and this one's coming down to the wire here with 13 seconds. We see Josh has another cycle. Will Waxton be able to respond in time? He does, but that's a very short cycle. He goes to climb earlier. Josh fires off 2. 1 misses and hit his climber. With 3 seconds left, we'll see if he gets up because that could be the deal breaker, and there we go. He doesn't get the climb, and that's going to be the difference here. Waxton wins 311 to 280 in what was such a close match. We see Josh not able to get it at the very end. He was giving a good fight, but just wasn't able to get it this time around.
This match we have Waxton versus Josh 4910. Waxton been a king of single player runs, doing that very, very well. So if you just watch 6-mans and such, you might be a little bit confused or a little bit expecting Josh to dominate this, but Waxton's definitely very, very good at single player runs, which is what he's done most of the time. And you can see he gets off to a lead in autonomous, 20 points after the first little bit, and then Waxton actually up to nearly 30-point lead heading into the teleop period. So very good start for Waxton. Josh only a 68-point autonomous, which is definitely not what he wanted. Waxton, although, is jamming a little bit here. He had a bit of a jam, manages to score them quickly after unjamming, but that'll slow him down a little bit, could narrow his lead a little bit. Although Josh missing a few balls there, but he's fine on them. Both cycling here, like 20-point lead, 27-point lead for Waxton here. Waxton's actually going for the color wheel, which is interesting. Not something that people generally do in the single player runs, and he gets it there. So 10 points there for Waxton. We'll see if that seems to be a strategy, but Josh is catching up here. So Josh brings it within 10 points for a bit, and Waxton jamming. So Josh actually took the lead for a second there. So Josh looking to come back from a disappointing autonomous period, although Waxton appears to be about half a cycle ahead of him. So it all comes down to what time who's ahead when the end game happens. People need to start climbing. So that's pretty important. Although if Waxton goes for the second color wheel thing, that might cause him some trouble. I'm not necessarily sure that's the best strategy to do, although he does have a 20-point lead here, and looks like this cycle's a little bit quicker for him than it is for Josh. So maybe he'll be fine, but if he wants to stay ahead, it might not be the best idea to go for that color wheel. Doesn't look like he's doing that right now. Him and Josh at this point just cycling. 30-point lead there for Waxton, just kind of a little bit lower down to 25 now. So Waxton, I think if he gets one more cycle and then gets the climb and balance, he should be fine. He should have the win. But who knows? He might try and stretch it a little bit, which is something sometimes people do. They stretch it a little bit and end up missing the climb, which is, I think, what Josh has to hope for at this point in order to get the victory. Waxton. Oh, he's going for the color wheel. Oh, that could cause a little bit of trouble on the climb. Oh, and it does. Oh, he barely made the climb. Waxton, wow. So the color wheel there caused him some trouble, almost cost him the match, but he managed to get the climb the last second. A very exciting match, and Waxton takes that one 403 to 357.
Start off this match, both robots getting a very clean start off the line, both grabbing the line, and both shooting from right next to the truss. This is a pretty even match, although Waxton seems to have missed some inner ports, which is going to cost him fairly decently as he ends auto here. He is down 30 points on Josh. That is very unfortunate. Had he gotten more inner ports, he probably would have stayed a little bit closer to Josh. Both of them had a very similar auto. The only difference was their aiming. 1 minute, 50 seconds remaining. Josh at 417 to 55 with Waxton. Both robots picking up balls. Going to go shoot them off. Josh grabbing some from the rendezvous, lining up next to the truss, shooting. He does reach capacity. Will he go to the control panel, or will he decide to just shoot off another set of cycles? Waxton lining up and shooting. Most of those going outer port, unfortunately for him. And Josh now has a score that is double Waxton's. That accuracy from Waxton is going to hurt him in the long run. 1 minute, 15 seconds left. Josh grabbing some power cells from the rendezvous. Waxton doing the same, lining up and shooting. Neither robot opting to go spin the control panel. Instead, both going to shoot power cells as fast as possible instead of spinning the control panel, which may pay off. 55 seconds left with 220 to 121, 100-point gap between Josh and Waxton. Josh is absolutely wrecking right now. That accuracy from Waxton is just hurting him so much. With 45 seconds left, Waxton is going to have to pull off an absolute miracle if he wants to take this match. Josh grabbing some power cells from the rendezvous and behind the trench. Waxton doing the same, both lining up and shooting as we enter endgame. 279 to 169, over 100 points between the two players. We enter the last 15 seconds of the match. Both robots grabbing as many power cells as they possibly can before they have to go line up and climb. 10 seconds left. Will Josh get his cycle off? Yes, he will. Will Waxton get his cycle off? Barely. Both line up to the bar, both pull down, and both are up and balanced. And that is it. The score is in, with Josh 49-10 taking the win with 358 to 227.
It came down to the wire, but Waxton's inexperience on Robotier showed as he was unable to close out the series. Josh was able to defeat his opponent through a final strong performance, but will need to improve his consistency for a shot at the top. At the top of Ladder Season 2, and our first player in this match, we find Bacon. An explosive player known for his outstanding performances on the FRC shooter, climbed through the ranks quickly to secure his position as number 1. Hundreds of hours spent in single player means he is one of the most experienced in the arena today, which he will need to serve him well as he fights through the pit, looking to take home the title. The other side of the field, we meet Evan 1533. While he may be the underdog heading into this match, he is regularly in contention for top performances on the FRC shooter robot. His weakness lies in his versatility. While he ended the ladder in the 2nd division, it was rare to see him on Robotiers or Neutrons. For this matchup against the experience of Bacon, he will need to get to grips with the controls quickly if he wants to advance.
Moving on now to Bacon versus Evan, and these two definitely not strangers. They've played plenty of matches with each other, they've played plenty of matches against each other, but we'll see who comes out on top in the inertia matchup. We see initially maybe a little bit of difficulty in this autonomous round. We see Bacon and Evan both not getting those perfect hoppers. We'll see who's able to get more. It looks like Bacon's greeding a little bit for those power cells. We'll see if that pays off. Definitely looks like they could have scored some more, but still good scores on both sides. 66 to 60. Pretty well done all round. 2:06 left on the clock, so still anybody's game. And like we've seen before, climbs change everything at the very end. So with 1:59 on the clock, who will be able to do what? Not totally sure what Evan was doing there. He fired a power cell off very early. That one went into the outer port, whereas Bacon lined him up. Those all went into that inner port. And we do see the advantage now. Only 4 points. That could be one power cell when it comes down to the end of the match here. We'll see if it keeps up this very close match. 1:35 now left on the clock. We see Evan. He's kind of scouring the field here, looking for power cells. Bacon with the climber up. Looks like he might be looking to go to that color wheel or something, because that is not normally how the inertias drive around. You can almost risk shooting and getting those hit on top of your climber, but we do see him now going to the color wheel. Evan, on the other hand, focusing on those power cells. He's picking some up around the trench, and we'll fire those all off right now. Those go into the inner port with that turret. Bacon, crucially, has not put down his climber, so he's kind of nerfing himself here. He's not able to get full advantage of that inertia turret, might struggle to score backwards. He is able to get them all out, though, so he looks like he's maybe wanting to focus on that color wheel once more. Evan, on the other hand, he's just straight cycling. We see 194 to 179 at this point, so it looks like it might be in his favor. And of course, as I say that, Bacon with a full cycle of his own, Evan responding to get his lead back. He wants to hold on till the end of the match here. 36 seconds left on the clock. Evan maybe looked at going for that color wheel, opted out of it, instead firing off that cycle. There's 2 power cells left in his robot. Make that 3. Those are up now. Took a little bit of time. We see Bacon going for that color wheel, positioning this time. You see it highlighted. If he can get that color, he will be good to go. That's 20 points added to his score, and that'll be very advantageous because this match is coming down to the wire here. 251 to 253. Currently, your score. We'll see if anyone's able to get these last second cycles. Looks like Bacon was able to, but might risk the climb. Evan going a little bit earlier. We'll see who's able to get the balance, because right now it comes down to the balance, and it will be Bacon holding on. It was that color wheel that made the difference for him. Got that in the positioning. 20 easy points. Well done to him. He takes the inertia matchup, but it was a very close round.
Next up, we have Bacon versus Evan 1533. And we start off this match, Evan going reverse of what the normal meta is for Roboteers and shooting from initiation line, which is also not standard. Bacon opting to take the standard auto. Although Bacon does get mostly outer ports, this odd auto may have worked in Evan's favor as we enter 2 minutes left on the clock. Evan grabbing the back line. He will line up at the initiation line and shoot those off. Bacon also grabbing the last the line of balls on the back initiation line and shooting from truss. Evan grabbing as many balls as he possibly can from rendezvous, returning to initiation line and firing. 1 minute 45 seconds, 80 to 121, Evan advantage. Evan just seems to have a little bit more accuracy than Bacon, which is proving to be in his favor. Evan hitting capacity and returning to grab some more power cells from the middle of the field. Bacon just absolutely loading his hopper. He has easily 15 or 16 power cells in there, and he goes to spin the control panel. 1 minute 20 seconds left, 104 to 144. Evan firing off his cycle. Bacon finishing his work on the control panel and firing off his absolutely massive cycle into the power port. 1 minute left. Evan firing off a cycle. Bacon going and grabbing some more power cells from the trench run, and before firing those off into the power port, Evan doing the same. Evan once again proving that he has just a little bit better accuracy than Bacon. Bacon struggling a little bit, firing mostly into the outer port, which is causing him to fall pretty far behind. Evan, however, missing a couple shots from the inner port. That may set him back a little bit, but he has a pretty comfy lead over Bacon. We enter endgame, 177 to 122. Pretty massive lead in Evan's favor. It'll be pretty hard for Bacon to come back from this. Bacon struggling pretty hard with the third stage of the control panel, getting that position control. 15 seconds left. Bacon has managed to catch up a little bit, only 30 points separating these two players. 10 seconds left. Both of them are going to have to start thinking about how they are going to line up and climb. Bacon climbing fairly early, although he does guarantee that he climbs. Evan climbing fairly late, but he does get up, and that is it. Evan wins with 304 to 277.
This match, we have Bacon versus Evan 1533. Bacon known as a very, very high-powering scorer with the OG, but Evan 1533 is not far behind in terms of just pure scoring ability. Looks like both players going for just a traditional autonomous mode. Bacon gets the first shots off, and Evan has a little bit of a jam there, struggling a little bit. Looks like he lost a couple balls at the front of his intake. So not the autonomous he wanted, only getting 40 points at the end of the autonomous period. So Evan 1533 getting messing up a little bit because of those jams. Really not what he wanted. Bacon didn't get an incredible autonomous, so it's far from over at this point. But Bacon has to feel good about this advantage right now. Here we have nearly 30-point lead for him. A little under 2 minutes remaining. Bacon going in for another cycle, looking to be ahead of Evan just on the time cycling front and just the score front. Bacon could be looking for a blow up here, although Evan's not out of it yet. A couple good cycles, couple quick cycles, and he could be right back in this. Although looks like Bacon's actually cycling quicker than Evan is right now, which is not what Evan wants in order to stay in this match. 30-point lead for Bacon. Evan, Bacon both shooting. Bacon having a little bit of a jam there, although it wasn't terrible. It was not going to cost him much. Bacon, I think, as long as he just keeps on cycling, avoids jams, and gets the climb, he should be okay. But you can see Evan's been catching up. He almost tied the match at that cycle, and he has a quick cycle there just getting the loader station. So, and Bacon actually going for the color wheel now. So Bacon with the color wheel here, as we saw, it cost Waxton a little bit in the last match that he did. And Evan actually managed to take the lead. So right here, we're pretty much tied. So Bacon with that color wheel could be a problem, as it could be what cost him this match. 30 seconds left. We're entering endgame. We're only looking for a couple more cycles for each player. And we are tied. We're tied with less than 30 seconds left. So I think it's going to all come down to this last cycle in the climb. You can see Evan didn't manage to get a ton of balls that cycle. So although Bacon jamming a little bit, actually Evan has a lead here. Bacon going for the color wheel. So we'll see if this is something he can do. It's slowing him down. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it. He's going for the climb last second. Last second climb. Evan wins. 368, 331. Had a good comeback there.
Despite an early lead on neutrons, Bacon was unable to extend his advantage and has fallen in the first round. Evan progresses to the round of the gatekeepers. With room for improvement, he will look to polish some mistakes made to take on his next competitor. When we talk about Roboteers, one of the first players that comes to mind is C4678. He has been very active in the community recently, having kept up with many of the current field trends. While lower on the ladder, his versatility has been tested time and time again, which will help him succeed against this formidable competitor. Consistency meets this matchup in the form of RJ9, who boasts tremendous experience in multi- and single-player gameplay. In the first ladder, he did not fall out of Division 1 and was competitive with our gatekeepers all season long.
Next match, we have RJ9 versus C4678. RJ9 didn't play ladder, which might cause a little bit of rust for him, but we'll see how C can play. Starting just traditional autos for both players. RJ9 gets the first shot off, and he has a bit of a lead. Although it looks like C got an extra ball of the first few. So heading out of auto, C had a slight lead, although RJ9 got a couple more balls in right when Chelyop started. So C looking like he has a solid lead, but RJ hasn't done those nearby loader station balls yet, which will make it so he's a faster cycle there later on. But C does seem to have a slight advantage in the cycling. You see RJ9 got stuck underneath the trench for a minute there, which, cost him a couple seconds. It's never something you want to do, just lose a couple seconds for no reason. Both shooting here, and we're pretty tight right now. C only has a 2 power cell lead. And we see RJ actually has that, like I said earlier, has that quick cycle there that he can do. So I'd say RJ is at a slight advantage at this point, although it's very, very close. But both of them really trying to just cycle as quickly as possible, get a bunch of balls in, do what they can. Although that was a bit of a slow cycle for RJ, and he's jamming a little bit. So not necessarily, not what he wanted with that last cycle. Although he does seem to have slightly better situation with balls on the rendezvous point. This is a very, very tight match. Very, very tight. C is only up by 2 power cells. So RJ, like I said, has a slightly better situation with the rendezvous, has those balls there that he's about to grab right now. So has an advantage here, getting the cycle up. So this should put him up 20 odd points, 17 points. So a little over 30 seconds left. RJ9 cycling quicker. So RJ9 with an advantage. C hoping for a climb error or something, but he does have a bunch of balls right in front of the goals there. So you can put these in. Maybe he still has a chance even with climbs. I guess there's the balance of if RJ9 misses his balance, C could catch up, but I think at this point he has to hope for RJ9 to mess up a little bit on the climb front. Although keeping it a little tight, RJ is. Very, very close match. RJ looks to be good. Oh no, RJ misses the balance, just as I said. So C manages to win by just 8 points. Very, very close match. And that's all because of RJ missing that balance, climbing at 2 or 3 seconds, which cost him that match.
Looking now, it's RJ versus C4678. And C is more known for his roboteers than his inertia. We'll see if he's able to kind of transition those skills over here in comparison. RJ9, though, not sure how experienced he is on the inertia here. He might be looking to show up with some, surprises or struggle in autonomous. We'll see which one it is. Initially, it looks like C's having some issues with his hopper. 2 of those power cells rolling around make that 3 now on the floor. He will go straight to the human player station, but after autonomous, it is 69 points in favor of RJ, but plenty of time left on the clock for C. He just got another cycle off. He's going to be looking to do that again as he tries to claw back that deficit that he gained or had in autonomous mode. 89 to 84, but RJ will respond. He's going to put a quick cycle, a little bit small, didn't have as many power cells as the hopper could hold, but C will do the same thing. That was, again, only a 3 or 4 ball hopper. Not very good for the inertia. Inertia, normally you want to be going for at least 6 or 7, but he will look to do better his next cycles, and RJ putting up some. That was a very good cycle from him, and he now elects to go to that blue human player station, so this should be a really quick turnaround for him as he gets those all in the inner port. So for him, that accuracy is really coming through. See, another small cycle. So this is one of the things he might be struggling with throughout with 118 left in the match. It's still close. Don't get me wrong. 145 to 156 is definitely something not to turn your nose up at. It could go either way, but with 108 left on the clock, we'll see if RJ is able to continue extending his lead that he has right now. Perhaps C could make a play towards the color wheel to get some easy points if he's been struggling with those cycles, but I don't think that's where he's going right now. Climber isn't up, which is a key indicator for the inertia robot. We see RJ9 looking for power cells wherever he can find them. He found them in the rendezvous zone, but it doesn't look like a full hopper. He's instead going to line up, fire it off, seem to be relatively good. See it with a bit of a jam, though, on the other hand. He's still in it, but he needs something big if he wants to take this 12-point disadvantage back from RJ, because RJ will respond with another cycle as soon as C put one up. With 28 seconds left on the clock, we're going to see RJ, again, making his way around the field, the turret following his movement, but he just doesn't have a lot of power cells. 20 seconds left now, 249 to 237. So C maybe going to be banking on climbs here, hoping RJ throws, because that could do it for him. 10 seconds left on the clock. We'll see RJ going for another cycle. C's going to fire off what he had and go. With 5 seconds left, it'll come down to the climbs. If one of them throws, it's all over, but it will be RJ9.
We start off this auto, C taking the extra time to align his hood to the correct position before going and grabbing that line. RJ doing the opposite, and it seems to have worked a little bit better in C's favor as he has 2 extra points and was able to fire off his cycle a little bit earlier. Auto ends with 47 to 42 in C's favor. Fairly low scoring auto from both of these players. Would like to see a little bit more from them, but of course it is very hard in the moment sometimes to get a perfect auto. C going and firing off his cycle. RJ following suit, 71 to 60 with 1 minute and 50 seconds left. RJ grabbing the back line. C doing the same, lining up next to the truss, firing his cycle. He is very close to reaching that capacity. RJ doing the same, although a couple missed shots from the inner port might cost him a little bit. 97 to 87, 10 points separate these two players. 1 minute, 30 seconds left. C hits capacity as he fires off his cycle. RJ, with a fairly small cycle, normally you'd want to see a little bit of a bigger cycle from players. It makes the cycle times a little bit more efficient. The more power cells you can get at once and fired into the power port, the better. 1 minute, 15 seconds left. 142 to 102. C is pulling away with this one. It's going to be pretty hard for RJ to come back from this, although he definitely can. He does end up getting a little bit closer to C, although C then fires off his cycle and pulls a little bit farther away. RJ answering, saying, "No, I will keep on your tail. I will win this." 50 seconds left. C firing off his cycle. RJ getting a fairly small cycle, although he does pick up a couple scraps before going and shooting those off. 185 to 159 in C's favor. C firing off his cycle. Neither robot opting to go spin the control panel, both going, filling up with as many power cells as possible, shooting as many power cells as possible, seeing if they can possibly outscore the other opponent solely on power cells. 20 seconds left. We are solidly in the end game now. 228 to 180. C is definitely pulling back away with this. 13 seconds left. C grabbing his last cycle. RJ going to have to grab a fairly awkward small cycle if he wants to climb on time, and he does. C puts his climber up, and he will line up. RJ also doing the same. C climbing. RJ climbs. He barely gets up, and C wins this with 305 to 237.
In the end, experience and an early lead was not enough for RJ9, as he will progress no further. C4678 advances, coming back from an early deficit to shine on the second and third matchups. Coming off a narrow victory, Codster 5846 will look to improve his performances on the FRC shooter, as that was where he struggled the most in the pit. He is not a player known for fear of trying new things, and will be looking to pull out all the stops to take down the first of our 4 gatekeepers. Andrew 2137 looks to deny Codster 5846 that opportunity. Known for his quiet demeanor in multiplayer, he has had some explosive performances in single player that have led to him elevating the meta for current gameplay. This includes the RoboTiers world record, where he has solidified himself as a top competitor in the category. A winner of the second ladder championship and the All-Star tournament, Andrew 2137 is no foreigner to success. The favorite in the matchup is hoping to take this round in a convincing victory.
Now we have Andrew 2137 versus Codster 5846. Andrew, we know, has played very, very well. He managed to get to the Division 1 in the ladder, which is very, very nice. Good for him. We saw Codster do that in Season 1, actually. You see, Andrew gets the first couple shots off, but a couple of them miss the inner port, and Codster has a solid lead heading into the second portion of that autonomous period, and nearly, that's about 15-point lead for Codster heading into the main portion until the end. So Codster has a slight lead. Andrew looking to cycle a little quicker, although Codster is looking to get that second cycle in a little bit faster. You saw Andrew had a little bit of jam there. So Codster looking good for the first 30-odd seconds in the match, but it's far from over. As we all know, matches can change really quickly. A missed climb, a bad cycle, poor ball management in the rendezvous, all of them could easily swing a match, and especially one as close as this really is within a balance, although not, as I say that, cause some more balls into the power card. So crowd serve looks to be about a cycle up on Andrew, although maybe not quite, maybe half a cycle, but he also has the advantage of the cycle time. So Codster's playing well. Andrew, although looks to have some pretty solid management in the rendezvous point, better than Codster. So you could definitely see him catching up because of the rendezvous point there. Although Codster has this cycle here, which will be a fast cycle for him. So that'll extend his lead when we're at a minute left. Those balls go into the rendezvous point quite well. Andrew's going to need some good cycling in order to catch up here. That's for sure. Codster, Andrew, both doing their best. Andrew definitely having a jam there, which is not something that he wants to see, especially in this close of a match. He knows that he needs to keep on cycling in order to catch up. Codster is like about half a cycle ahead of Andrew, it looks like. So if Andrew can be at the same cycling point as Codster during the climbs, it could come down to that. Although Codster had a very, very quick cycle here, it's just getting him on the side. 15 seconds left. We're looking at one more cycle per player. Codster, although Andrew's a little faster, Codster might be cutting it a little bit close here. I don't know if he's able to shoot this entire cycle and climb. Yeah, very, very tight. He manages to climb, misses the balance, but that's okay. He had built up enough of the lead on the power cell that missing the balance was not what did not cost him the match, although he did cut it close to the climbs. He just managed a tight 16-point victory, though.
Looking now at our next match, we have Andrew 21-37 versus Codster 58-46. Should be a pretty solid matchup. Codster with a strong performance his first match. We'll see if he's able to do that again as he now faces against Andrew, the gatekeeper. We'll see if Andrew, who had a strong performance in the last 12, if he can do the same. Codster, a really rough start to his autonomous mode. A lot of those power cells only going into the outer port. That's a big mistake here. Low scores from both sides of the field here, 62-63, as Codster goes across the field for that line of those 9 power cells and will make his way across now, lose 1 or 2, just going over the rendezvous zone. Andrew, a little bit more precise, 78-80 now, with Andrew, the gatekeeper, in the lead. Codster really struggling here on this rendezvous zone. He's driving over top of power cells, losing his balance. He will get those off. That was a good cycle from Codster, but Andrew will respond and extend his lead by 2 or 3 more points there, 104-96, with a minute and 40 left on the clock. Still plenty of time, and it looks like we might see Andrew going for some more power cells there. He is still looking to put those up in the inner port. Codster responds with a cycle of his own. Codster now making his way around the rendezvous zone, trying to pick up as many power cells as he can. Andrew, climber is up. That means he's going to be doing the position or the rotation. Codster did the same, so both of those robots getting 10 points. That's going to add to their score. And really coincidental timing here. These 2 robots went at the same time for that rotation, and looks like maybe they will try to do the same for positioning. They need more power cells, though, to get to that level. Andrew struggling, a lot of those power cells falling as he drove around the rendezvous zone. He is now down by 4 points after holding a solid advantage for a fair bit of the match here. 186-190 is Codster putting up a full cycle of his own. That Hopper doing very well for him. No jams really necessary. Codster, another cycle as well. Those might have been a little low. Not sure if those went into that inner port. We'll see, though. He is also able to do positioning should he choose. Andrew puts up those power cells. He can go to the color wheel, and he will do so now. We see 25 seconds left on the clock. This might help Andrew get back in this, as he's down by 20 points, but Codster will respond by doing the color wheel as well. That's all lined up for positioning. That's 20 points for each alliance, which means Andrew here might be down with 11 seconds left. We'll see what happens with the climbs as Codster making his way, trying to get some last-second shots off. Andrew trying to get some last-second shots off. We'll see who's able to make the climb as they both go up at the last second. It will be Codster holding on 333-312 after what was a bit of a difficult start to the match with those power cells falling out. He was able to hold on and take the win against Andrew, the gatekeeper.
Next up, we have Andrew 21-37 versus Codster 58-46. All right, we have officially entered the Gatekeepers bracket, and Kotzer grabs his line. Andrew does the same. Both of them firing from pretty much the same exact spot, although Andrew seeming to have a little bit more accuracy. Kotzer's appearing to go around the truss, taking that extra time to go line up where he's used to, but that did not pay out for him as auto ends before he can fire off his cycle. Very unfortunate for Kotzer. Going to have to work on where he shoots from. Andrew grabbing the back line, Kotzer grabbing from the trench run. Both robots grabbing as many balls as they can and firing them off into the power port. 45 seconds left. 117 to 96 in Andrew's favor. Kotzer is coming back a little bit, although Kotzer's power cell spawns are not doing super well for him. He is having to go around the field and pick up scraps where he can find them, whereas Andrew has a lot of power cells in that centralized part of the rendezvous. 1 minute, 20 seconds left. 164 to 129. Both robots just grabbing as many power cells as they possibly can, trying to make as efficient of cycles as possible. 1 minute remaining. 188 to 150. Andrew is slowly pulling away from Kotzer. Kotzer grabbing as many power cells as he possibly can, lining up, firing. Both robots have reached capacity. Neither robot opting to go grab or spin the control panel. That seems to be the kind of meta is shooting as many balls as possible rather than spinning the control panel, as you can pretty easily outcycle spinning the control panel by going and firing those power cells. We enter endgame at 256 to 198 in Andrew's lead, or in Andrew's favor. Andrew firing off his cycle shortly after Cod had, pulling quite far ahead. Andrew grabbing just slightly bigger cycles than Cod. 15 seconds left. Cod is going to have to pull a pretty big comeback if he wants to win this match. Final 10 seconds. Both robots are going to think about climbing. Cod goes fairly early. Andrew does the same. Both robots wanting to make sure that they get up in time, both balance and climb, and that is it. The score is in at 351 to 300 in Andrew's favor.
An early lead was not to be for Kotzer 5846, as mistakes in the final round shatter both his lead and his hopes of progressing forward. Guaranteeing himself a top 4 position through a strong performance on Roboteers, Andrew 2137 advances to the semifinals. Another narrow round in the pit saw Josh 4910 defend off his opponent to take his first win of the 12th. Now most certainly the underdog, he may need to look to his strength on Roboteers to salvage his matchup and have a chance at the semifinals. This does not mean all hope is lost for him, as the victory momentum may be enough to carry him forward, as it gave him the opportunity to warm up and improve on some mistakes from the first round. Meet Cone 4946, our second gatekeeper. A 2-time All-Star champion as the Alliance captain, he is known for his versatility and multiplayer dominance. A Lock Division 1 player, his performances on both the FRC Shooter and Neutrons have carried his Alliance partners when it is needed the most. Yet the crown has been just out of reach for him, something he will hope to change today. He fell in the semifinals of the original 12, and only time will tell if he has put in the work to change the outcome this time around.
Now, Cone 4946 versus Josh 4910. I fully expect that this match here is going to be insanely high scoring. Cone is known for his inertia gameplay, and he needs to perform here. It's his first appearance in the 12-2, as a inertia robot, he's going to put up as many power cells as he can. We'll see he has a slower start than Josh, but is able to keep this score close. We'll see if he can get some more off in autonomous. Looks like he does do so. It will be early advantage to Cone by 3 points. Slim margins early on. We'll see if he can extend that as he goes up into that airport. That was a very large cycle from Cone, and all precise shots. Those all went in. Josh doing one as well. He actually probably got 1 or 2 more power cells off. It is going to be 92 to 104 now in favor of Cone with 2 minutes left. We'll see if that advantage holds. Josh 4910 now making his way around the field to that blue human PlayStation, which Cone had already taken. We see Cone there, a massive mistake. Something might be wrong with his hopper because those power cells should not be hitting the wall. We'll see if he's able to remedy the issue. He is in it still, 128 to 126, so holding on after a pretty big mistake. We'll see. It looks like he may have fixed the issue as those power cells going into the inner port. Josh, the power cells up. He is ready to do rotation should he choose. We'll see if Cone wants to opt for that as well as he puts up a few more power cells. Cone may be having some issues because those are very small cycles. Josh holding on by 1 point for the time being as he drives over the power cells. No regard for how they're feeling because he is coming in hot, going for those power cells right now in the corner. He will make his way through the rendezvous zone, looking like he wants another cycle, and those all do go up into the inner power port. 180 or 191 to 186, so Cone still holding, but by the slimmest of margins. Only 2 power cells here. 50 seconds left on the clock as Josh fires off the cycle. Cone will respond with one of his own. 45 seconds left now. It is going to come down to the wire here. We see both robots neglecting the color wheel. Looks like they're focusing on raw scoring and raw scoring alone. 216 to 216, all tied up with 30 seconds left on the clock. Who can get more cycles and who can get them faster? 225 to 231, so Josh slightly bigger that time around. That might have been 2 extra power cells. The Cone, though, will not go down easily. 240 to 246. This one's coming down to the wire. Cone could use those 10 points from the color wheel here, but instead will go to the rendezvous zone for another cycle. Will he get back in time? And does Josh have a response? Josh holding on right now with 6 seconds left. We'll see if Cone's cycle might do the difference. If they both climb evenly, it goes to Cone. It looks like it will by a single point. After struggling in the middle of the match with some hopper issues, with some turret issues, he holds on a 1-point victory. It does not get closer than that, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 12-2.
This match is Cone 49-46 versus Josh 49-10. We know Cone is quite possibly and quite likely the #1 player in the world, so Josh is fighting an uphill battle. We'll see what he can do against a very highly rated Cone. Cone going with a different autonomous carrier than most people, taking the line immediately, starting the left position. We'll see how that works out for him. Going for a very traditional, like old style of autonomous mode, the line and the rendezvous, or not the rendezvous, the loading station. That's old, months old. That was what people did 4 or 5 months ago. But it definitely looks like it's working. He has a very solid 30-point lead right now, and he had about as much of a lead coming out of autonomous mode. So Cone with that strategy, it's not as popular as it used to be, but it definitely appears to be working so far in the match. But as we all know, it can change. So we'll see how it affects later in the match. See how the positioning of the balls might make a difference here. Josh having a little bit of a jam. Giving Codster a chance to build upon his lead in terms of cycling. But he does have a solid 40-point lead here. It's definitely a very, very uphill battle for Josh here. As Cone, is up 50 now points. So doing very, very well. Josh not having a bad run by any sense of the imagination, but Cone just playing very well. I've said that before. And that's to be expected. Cone is one of the top players, if not the top player in the world. So anybody facing him knows that they have to play their absolute best in order to have a chance of dethroning him. 60-point lead here for Cone. Josh just really has to cycle well and hope for a missed climb. Like, both of those need to come true in order for him to have a chance. I guess Cone jamming there. Maybe what Josh needs to catch back up. Just get it within 45 points or so that a climb and a quick cycle can help take the match, but I don't think so. I think Cone's just going to get a couple cycles in, climb, he'll be fine. I mean, Josh really, I don't think he has a chance at this point. Cone looking for one more cycle. Josh looking for one more cycle. Both going to go line up to climb, I imagine. Although Josh trying for a quick cycle here, playing it very risky. And yeah, unable to do anything, unable to get close. 75-point victory for Cone here. Commanding from autonomous onwards, he commanded that victory, and that autonomous mode for Cone could have definitely helped.
Next up, we have Cone 49-46 against Josh 49-10. We start off this match. Cone getting a fairly slow start out of the gate. He does go and grab that line, but a lot slower than Josh can. Cone taking the extra time to line up. Josh having some issues with his hopper and manages to get them off in time, but barely come out of auto with Josh advantage at 63-46, and Cone has flipped himself. He is stuck on the wall. He has gotten stuck in that red loading station, which has flipped him up onto the red power port. That is unfortunate. He cannot reset. That is over for him. His score is finalized at 46 points unless he can get himself off that wall, which is going to be very difficult for him. Josh pulling very far ahead. Score 46-107 in Josh's favor as Josh is able to cycle. Cone cannot. He cannot reset himself. That is it. He cannot move. Josh is just going to be grabbing as many power cells as he can, shooting as many as he can, trying to get as far ahead of Cone as possible. 1 minute, 30 seconds left. Josh lining up, shooting before returning to rendezvous to go grab some more power cells. Going to eat them up like hungry hippos before firing them off into the power port. Josh has reached capacity, but he looks like he will not be going to spin the control panel. Instead, he will be opting to go with that strategy of shooting as many power cells as possible to try to possibly outscore someone who decides to stop and spin the control panel. 1 minute left. Cone moving his climber up and down, maybe in a sympathy dance, maybe hoping that the refs will let him rerun, but of course it is in vain. The refs are very strict and will not let him reset. 45 seconds left, 46-236. Very, very, very unfortunate for Cone as Josh just pulls miles ahead as Josh is able to move around the field, pick up power cells and shoot them, and Cone is stuck moving his shooter up and down and his climber up and down in hopes of maybe freeing himself or maybe getting that sympathy, but it won't work. 20 seconds left. This is unfortunately pretty locked in Josh's favor, or I should say pretty unfortunately for Cone. Josh is going to be well in the clear for this match. Josh raises his climber, moves towards the bar and lifts himself up into the air, and that is it. The match is over with 3:35 to an unfortunate 46 in Josh's favor.
Critical error strikes disaster for Cone 49-46 late in the round, scoring only 46 points on Roboteers, sending him home far earlier than expected. Against all odds, Josh 49-10 hangs on to defeat the Gatekeeper, with its odds of victory getting ever greater. After a successful matchup versus Bacon, Evan 1533 looks to pick up the pace to take down one of the SRC greats. The round of the Gatekeepers is not unfamiliar territory for him, as this is where he started last time out. But this time, there can be no mistakes. Even with a perfect performance, this match will be an uphill battle, as he goes on to face the old guard of elite players. Brennan 4476. His titles say it all. As the most decorated player in XRC Sim, he has shown the versatility needed to make even the weakest of alliances perform at their best. But as the only person on the field, how will he perform? He has not held a single player record in many moons, and threw away the win in the finals of the last 12. Brennan 4476 will need to perform across all 3 categories to ensure this matchup goes in his favor. These two are all too familiar with each other's gameplay, but we will see who performs best when they're on opposite sides of the field.
Brennan 4476 versus Evan 1533. This one is going to be an insane matchup right now, and I can tell you that early on here. Both of these players with some inertia experience. We're going to see who takes what in autonomous. We see them going the same pathing. Evan's a little bit ahead on pace. We'll see Brennan's a little bit ahead on accuracy as they're both 36 to 36. Who can get the second cycle off faster? Looks like it will be Brennan by 3 power cells. And then, of course, Evan responding 69 to 69, all tied up here as Brennan going for some more cycles. Evan losing some power cells as he drives over the rendezvous. That's the dangers of inertia, but right now he is ahead. And with that, of course, Brennan responding, does not want to go down, does not want to take this one to another match. We see 99 to 105 here. Brennan responding with another cycle, 117 to 105 with 140 left. So plenty of time for both of these robots to settle into their rhythm and do some more shooting. We see 138 to 123. So it looks like Brennan has now gained about a cycle's pace and will go to the color wheel. It goes a little bit high on the climber, has some issues lining up. He will get there eventually. Not sure if that's going to be worth it, though, for him, as Evan's been cycling this entire time. Brennan will get those power cells off after getting the 10 points. It does put him in the lead, but only by a single point. And Evan does still have time to, of course, do the color wheel himself. So we'll see if that pays off when all is said and done. Brennan with another cycle, those all going into the inner port cleanly. He does have the advantage by 2 points now. And Evan losing some power cells. Again, the dangers of inertia here. You need to drive smoothly. Otherwise, you risk losing half of your hopper just by driving over bumps. 194 to 215. So 1 cycle up for Evan. Brennan responding. 209 to 215 now. So with 43 seconds left on the clock, we'll see who's able to take this match here. Evan, though, looks like he's extended his lead a little further. Brennan will respond with a cycle of his own. It's now within 3 points, but Evan is a little ahead on time. We did see Brennan go for the color wheel before. Evan hasn't done that yet. So maybe that's Brennan's strategy to get the 20 points from the position later on, but he's running low on time because there's only 20 seconds left. That climber is up for Brennan, so it looks like he is doing the positioning. Evan not going to do that, so that's 20 points in the bag for Brennan, and only 10 seconds left. We'll see if Evan can get another cycle. He's in the middle of nowhere, really. We'll see. It looks like he might have to abort and go to the climb. Looks like Evan going to be slim. Does he get there at all? And he does just get onto the bar at the end, and neither one looking like they got the balance, but Evan was able to get onto the bar. That was Brennan's only hope. And 310 to 306 is going to go in favor of Evan after what was a very close match.
This match, we have Brennan versus Evan. So Brennan, the most decorated player in SRC history, as we all know, the cliche that has been said thousands of times. Probably the favorite here just because of his track record. But Evan is no slouch, that's for sure. Both of them going for a similar auto. Evan gets the first shots off. So he is going a little quicker. Brennan, interesting, goes for those balls there. So Evan, 15 points or so coming out of auto, but Brennan has the quicker secondary cycle. So he's up, but very, very tight. Although Evan going from the corner, which is something that's a little harder to line up. You have to be a little more precise in order to line up from the corner than you do from just straight away, which, could save some time, but also could sometimes cause a couple of balls to miss. So it's definitely a strategy some people do and some people don't do, I guess. But we'll see, I guess, if it pans out for him this match. Although it's very, very back and forth. Very back and forth match, although Evan takes, I think this 20-point lead is the biggest lead we've seen in this entire match. Brennan putting some shots in, closing the gap, and Evan actually managed to get about a cycle lead with that. Brennan's cycle was a little bit slow, but here we go. This cycle is a little bit quicker. So, although jamming here, it's unfortunate for Brennan. Really hoping he would take the lead here, but not able to do that due to a couple seconds of jams, which are really going to cause him. And Evan has a quick cycle here, so that's going to build upon his lead. And now Brennan has dug himself a bit of a hole here. 15 points or so is far from insurmountable, but not a bad lead for Evan at all. He's definitely wants to keep on building upon it. 20 points or so. Few more cycles in, climb. He should be solid as long as he doesn't screw up. I mean, as long as Evan keeps playing well, he should be fine. But stranger things have happened. He could jam. He could have trouble picking up balls. It's possible. We see both of them cycling well. Brennan actually makes it a little closer. It's only about 10 points here. So we'll see what he can do. I guess a misclimb for Evan could cause Brennan a chance to win if Brennan can get the cycle in. Evan, I think if he goes for another cycle and hits the cycle, he should be good. Yeah, so I think Evan's got this as long as he climbs. A misbalance isn't going to do enough, as we saw a 16-point win there for Evan, 377 to 361. Good win for him, especially against a player as decorated as Brennan.
Next up, we have Brennan 44-76 against Evan 15-33. All right, this Gatekeepers match is underway. Evan going back to do that weird reverse meta auto. Brennan taking the extra time to align his hood before going and grabbing those power cells. Evan grabbing the line and then going to shoot those off. It does not pay off for him to go do that reverse auto as Brennan pulls a 71 out of auto, one of the higher auto scores that we've seen today. 2 minutes left and a fairly big lead in Brennan's favor. And Evan lining up on the initiation line, missing a lot of his shots, most of those going into the outer port, whereas Brennan just absolutely nails the inner port. 1 minute, 45 seconds left, 114 to 179. Evan firing off his cycle. Brennan doing the same, but from a couple feet back. Brennan reaches capacity, although it is very unlikely that he will go and spin the control panel, as the prime strategy appears to be shooting as many power cells as possible instead of spinning the control panel. 1 minute, 25 seconds left, 162 to 107. Evan just surpasses that 100-point barrier, which Brennan reached so long ago. 176 to 119 with 1 minute, 15 seconds left. Evan firing from the initiation line again. Brennan firing from farther back. Brennan just appearing to have just slightly better accuracy than Evan. Fewer balls going into the outer port, more balls going into the inner port. It is paying off as his lead increases over Evan. 50 seconds left. Brennan 208 to 164. Brennan just absolutely dumping power cells into that power port, just showing that most decorated player in XRC dominance. 30 seconds left. We enter endgame. Evan grabbing some scraps around the field. Brennan also appearing to run out of power cells in the middle of the field. Both players will have to go around the field and try to find some extra power cells that they can fit into the robot. Brennan getting physics glitched just like Cone, although he does manage to drive away from this. 15 seconds left. Evan lining up to the initiation line, firing a bunch of those going outer ports. Brennan firing from farther back, most of those going inner ports. 6 seconds left. Brennan firing a last ball, lining up. Both robots go very late. Both robots do get up, though. Both are balanced, and that is it with a score of 325 to 269 in Brennan's favor.
Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and so Evan 1533 will fall after taking an early lead. Brennan 4476's experience has paid off, as when it mattered the most, he was able to come from behind to take the win, advancing to the semifinals. C4678 had a good first match against an experienced player, but the toughest is yet to come. After all, it is the all-around package that matters here on the arena. He put in a strong performance on Roboteers, but this time will need that maximum performance across all three robots if he wants to carry his victorious momentum. As a player with no titles to his name, he will be looking to take home his first win today. Our final gatekeeper is the defending 12 champion, Nick 862. Undoubtedly one of the best, many may say he is the favorite going in as he sits perched on the top of the single-player leaderboard. With all 3 world records to his name, he has shown prowess across the board that is certain to strike fear in the hearts of his competitors. But on the field today, the past doesn't matter. One bad run and his streak of dominance could be easily upset, similar to how it was for him in latter Season 2. Will this gatekeeper show up when it matters the most?
This match, we have Nick 862 versus C 4678. Nick, very, very high scoring, the highest scoring single player person. So he's definitely the favorite in this match against C, but C is pretty darn good at this game as well. Although Nick, very, very fast to get off his first shots in the autonomous. Looking to have a good autonomous if he can get a few of these shots in. Although C managing to get the secondary line a little bit quicker, but he doesn't pick up quite enough. So a 20-point lead for Nick heading out of auto is definitely good. So C going for that near loader station to get that quick cycle in first, and then goes for the opposing line. We can see that C has used up some near balls and is quite behind. Nick is up a full cycle almost, and also like 10 balls or 10 points as well. So Nick's got a solid advantage here. C really needs to start performing very, very well at the very tip top of his game to have a chance at defeating Nick 862, who we all know is very, very, very good. Probably, or definitely in the conversation, if not the top single player in the entire game. Here we see a 60-point lead for him, which is quite a good lead. C needs to put several more cycles to even have a chance at this match. I mean, I wouldn't say it's over yet, but with a minute left, if Nick cycles and climbs with 15 seconds left, maybe even 30, he'd probably win this match, right? I mean, he's not going to do that, but it wouldn't necessarily cost him the match. Although C has cut it a little bit closer. Not anywhere out of comfort zone for Nick, though. He's still in a pretty comfortable position. As long as he hits this climb, he should be fine. One more cycle might be all he needs, but he's going to get 2 or 3 at the very least. Although C is going to the complete opposite side of the field for these cycles. He has a few balls near his goal, so get these in. Maybe he can do a cycle in the rendezvous, but 80 points is just not something that can be caught up with this little time left. I mean, even if Nick misses his climb here, I don't think C has a shot. Just gonna put those balls in, heading up to climb. He has a big enough lead that he doesn't need to climb. Although, so Nick takes a good win, 81 points, well over the score of the climb. So very, very good win for Nick. Look, very dominant, nearly crossing 400 points, which is very, very good for a single player run, especially when you don't have the resets that you normally do when you're just grinding out a high score.
Next up, we have Nick 862 versus C 4678. Starting off this match, C getting a little bit of a slower start onto the line as per usual, as he takes the extra time to adjust his hood before going and shooting, taking a little bit longer to line up though, and most of those going outer port. Nick seeming to just dial in his auto, absolutely showing his dominance in the XRC world. Currently the king of single player runs, 77-41 in Nick's favor. Nick, the winner of the previous 12 tournament, will he show that he is still number one, or will he fall? 1 minute 50 seconds left. 122-66. Double the points between Nick and C. C's going to have to try very, very, very hard if he wants to catch up to Nick. It is going to prove very difficult for him. C grabbing as many as he can from the rendezvous. Nick doing the same, both firing off into the power port and returning to rendezvous to grab more power cells. 1 minute, 27 seconds left, 169 to 116. C pulling a little bit closer, but still falling pretty far behind as Nick fires off an absolutely gargantuan cycle into the power port. 1 minute, 15 seconds left, 199 to 140. C grabbing as many as he can from Trench Run. Nick grabbing from Rendezvous. Nick seems to have his power cells a little bit more closer together, a little bit less dispersed than C's. C seems to have to go across the field to pick up scraps, whereas Nick is just grabbing the couple that are in Rendezvous, firing those off, and returning to Rendezvous before they can roll away. This is paying off for him with 45 seconds left, 259 to 192 in Nick's favor. Pretty big lead for Nick. It's going to have to be a pretty incredible upset if C can manage to take out Nick in this match. 30 seconds left. C firing off his cycle. Nick grabbing as many as he possibly can from Rendezvous. Lining up right of Trench, or I guess left of Trench, right of Truss, Jake throwing, and lining up and shooting those off. C firing off his cycle as well. Both robots grabbing as many balls as they possibly can for their last cycle of the match. Both robots going to have to start thinking about climbing. Nick goes from some extra power cells, turns, and does manage to hit the bar and get up, and that is it. Nick takes this at 388 to 305.
Now, Nick 862 versus C. Nick, not really a fan of the inertia. We'll see if he's able to put in some good scores here. We'll see what he's able to do. All right, so robots on the move. C with the top hat, so he's driving with some extra class here. Will that get him some extra points? Nick putting up those power cells early on. C not getting as many as his opponent. We'll see who has the advantage out of autonomous, but it looks like Nick does have it. Only by 6 points, not too significant, but of course, these matches are very volatile. 2 minutes gives a lot of time. Anything can happen here. 81 to 77. So Nick not necessarily as practiced on the inertia due to his inherent hatred of the robot. We'll see if that's going to come back to bite him, because right now C is right on his tails. He's 92 to 99. They will both fire off a cycle. Looks like Nick was able to extend his lead by a few power cells there. Just has a really good robot control. C putting up a smaller cycle. Nick gonna go for the color wheel. We'll see if that works for him. We've seen that work for some robots in the past. That's rotation. That's 10 points for Nick. C responding with a cycle of his own, so keeping it close points wise. Looks like he's trying to get those power cells in the rendezvous zone, maybe a little bit tricky in taking those. Nick will respond with some more power cells going up into that inner port, and that's going to be 157 to 143. So currently, still anybody's game, but with a minute left, C is going to need to do something and do it quickly, especially if he wants to keep this one close at the buzzer. 174 to 161 now as Nick putting up another full cycle. C looking to do the same here as he's putting those up. Those are going into the inner port and is going to help close the gap, but Nick will extend it further. He wants this win here, 207 to 183. C putting up more power cells, 47 seconds left on the clock, so still anybody's game. Nick can now go to positioning. C has still left the color wheel untouched. We're going to see if Nick does elect to do that with 37 seconds left on the clock. There's plenty of time to do so. C is putting up cycles, but the lead is still slightly extending for Nick. Nick now looking to do the positioning, and that was very quick from him on the color wheel. That's an easy 20 points for him. C, on the other hand, did a cycle while Nick was doing that, but had some jamming, and that made it not as profitable for him with 15 seconds left on the clock. The only way this one swings in favor of C at this point is if Nick misses the climb, and he is in top form right now. He's just cycling like it's nobody's business with 5 seconds left. The climber is up. He might get some extra outers from that. And as they climb at the end, it is going to go to Nick. He wins 355 to 305 in the quarterfinals on inertia against C4678.
Despite his best efforts, C4678 was outperformed in every category against the defending title holder. Nick 862 takes the 12-2 by storm with an impressive 214-point gap in a blowout series. Our first semifinal match has two Division II players who are looking for a strong performance to lock them into the finals. Andrew 2137 relied on his RoboTier's performance to get him through his first round of the event. As the favorite in this match, he is advanced to the semifinals through avoiding common errors, but he will need to push the boundaries of his comfort zone to take down his opponent. Josh 4910 has had to fight tooth and nail to get this far, starting from the pit 2 rounds ago. Putting up strong performances on RoboTiers, he will need to improve on some systemic errors which have prevented him from success on neutrons. Does he have what it takes to make it all the way, or will his tournament come to a grinding halt?
This match is underway. We are now in the semifinals as we have moved past the gatekeepers round. Andrew and Josh both pulling very, very, very similar autos, both grabbing the main line, shooting from just left, right of truss. Wow, I really can't do directions tonight. This is fine. Both robots just absolutely loading up their hoppers, firing them off, trying to get as far ahead of each other as possible. Although Andrew's lead over Josh is pretty significant, 94-75. Josh grabbing scraps around the field. Andrew still having a bunch of balls in the middle of the field that he can go and grab. Although he does struggle with pickup from the loading station, his intake decides not to grab the power cells, whereas Josh's intake appears to be functioning properly. 1 minute, 35 seconds left, 139-110. Josh has closed in a little bit after Andrew's intake decided to turn against him. Both robots grabbing as many balls as they can. Josh still grabbing scraps around the field. Andrew grabbing mostly from Rendezvous, although also running out of power cells again. Neither of these two players having super, super good luck with the power cell spawns in this match. 1 minute remaining. 176-149. Andrew's favor. Andrew firing off a fairly decently sized cycle. Josh following suit. Catching up just a little bit, but will it be enough? Will he be able to overtake Andrew by the end of the match? We don't know. He is very slowly crawling back ahead. Andrew taking a very slow cycle, and that will hurt him as Josh is able to get an extra cycle in on him, only bringing the lead to a smaller margin of 30 points. But Andrew does pull back ahead a little bit farther. Josh lining up after taking a fairly big amount of time to go and grab power cells. Andrew just absolutely nailing his cycles, just grabbing, firing. Josh taking a little bit more time to grab those power cells and fire them off. 15 seconds left. Both robots are going to have to start thinking about their last cycles and how they're going to approach the climbs. Josh will go for that weird extra cycle as he doesn't have a super great timing. Andrew and Josh both go to line up, both climb, both are balanced, and that is it. Andrew takes this match at 338-296.
This match is Andrew versus Josh. So both good players. Josh and Andrew both going for a more traditional autonomous. Andrew gets the shots off first just because Josh had a little bit of a jam. But looking like they're both in a pretty similar situation. Josh actually managed to get a couple more balls before the end of the autonomous mode, so that's good for him, but it's very, very close. There's only 3 points heading into the main section of Teleop, although he does appear to be a little bit ahead in the cycling, although Andrew had a relatively low-scoring cycle there. So 15 points for Josh. Getting this quick cycle in will give him a decent lead, nearly 40 points. But Andrew cutting that lead back down to within 20. Both of these players looking to cycle as much as they can, which, is the point of the game. But Andrew actually had tied it there for a second, but Josh, of course, still had several balls left in his hopper, unloaded those, gets the 20-point lead. And so here we see Andrew. What keeps happening is Andrew scores a bunch, makes it very, very close, and then Josh, less than a second later, just comes in and takes that lead he had right back. So, Andrew jamming a little bit and losing a bunch of balls, like 4 or 5 balls going there. That's going to cost him for sure. And now you can see Josh has 50-point lead, although it's shrinking a little bit with that stat. Andrew is doing the color wheel, which is unusual, but not unheard of, although he has a little bit of trouble there. The color wheel, only 10 points, is questionable on whether or not that's a good strategy in single-player runs. I think it's probably much more effective in multiplayer than it is in single-player. Just those 10 points and potentially 20 later on in the match. Those 30 points, that's about a cycle, and I think those each take I don't know, if those two combined probably take longer than a cycle. So I just don't think it's an efficient way to play the game. As you can see, Josh has a pretty comfortable lead as he's putting in another cycle there. Nearly 60 points here for Josh. So I don't think it's a good idea to do that color wheel. He's doing it. Andrew's doing it again now. He's going to do the color wheel, go for the climb. Nope, he's going for a cycle, cutting it a little close. Putting some shots in from the corner there. Josh lines up to climb early and managed to get it. Andrew missed the climb there or missed the balance, I should say. But Josh, it wouldn't have made a difference. Josh came out with a pretty handy victory.
Andrew 21-37 versus Josh 49-10. These two know each other pretty well, but do they know how each other play on the Inertia 1v1? In the semifinals, our first matchup here, we're seeing a little bit of difficulty all around. Some slow autonomous modes on the Inertia. We'll see who ends up getting the advantage. And with that being said, we are heading into this match with a lead in favor of Andrew, 69-51. Josh gonna have to put in some elbow grease if he wants to make up the differences. 69 again to 51. That's about a full cycle's worth of power cells. And in autonomous, that's not as hard to do. Here, he's going to have to really start working on those cycle times if he wants to make up the gap. 95-69 here. Josh struggling for pace. We'll see if Andrew does respond to that cycle. He does do so. 113-90. So 23 points now between these two robots as Andrew making his way through the rendezvous zone. Josh as well, but that's a pretty small cycle. The Spindexer was full, but not much more than that. The Hopper not having any power cells flying around in it. So not making the most of that Inertia power cell holding capability. 131-105 again, as both robots putting up a cycle of their own. Looks like Andrew maybe lost a little bit of his lead there, but not by much. These two still very close as Andrew looks to do the rotation. That's going to be 10 points for him when he can get that locked and loaded. Josh will take advantage of the time to put up a cycle a little bit slower, but does get them all up. It's now within 10 points, so advantage going to go to Andrew for the time being because he's extended that. The color wheel points coming in a little bit late. He did do so, and it's now 15 points between the two. So Josh slowly but surely chipping away with 53 seconds left on the clock. He might need to do something a little more drastic. Now, as we look to see 45 seconds, it is 201-182. Josh putting up a full cycle. Andrew doing the same, and that power cell now ready. They have hit the threshold needed for the positioning. Does do so. That's 20 points locked and loaded. Josh will respond with a cycle, trying to keep that gap as close as he can with 30 seconds left on the clock, but it's still Andrew holding on very strongly right now to his lead. It's not going to be easy for Josh to come back with only 20 seconds left on the clock. 269-227 as Josh looking to pick up the power cells from under the red trench. Andrew firing some off. It looks like he's going to the rendezvous zone for a quick cycle before climbs. We'll see if he does do so. Josh has a few power cells he'll put up before electing to go for the climb as well. We'll see as the robots go up. Looks like it will be Andrew who holds on to his lead. He had it the whole time around. This is going to be a 50-point gap here, and he moving on, at least with this robot, to the finals. So this could be a really big win for him.
Josh 4910 was able to neutralize the deficit after the first two matches, but struggled on neutrons, which sealed his fate. Our first finalist is determined, as Andrew 2137 takes 2 out of the 3 rounds in a convincing fashion. Let's see who he will meet there. Our second semi-final match gives us a replay of the original 12 finals, where we saw Nick 862 take home the title. With a high-scoring matchup anticipated, our world record holder will be facing off against the most decorated SRC Sim player. Nick 862's first matchup today showed the capacity of his dominance, proving that it is with good reason that he is the event favorite. If he continues to perform at the top of his game, he will be nearly untouchable on each robot. Brennan 4476 knows this matchup all too well, but has often been on the back foot against Nick 862. The exception to this has been Ladder, where Brennan 4476 finished the season in the first division after some incredibly high-scoring performances. He has been recently experimenting with all 3 robots in multiplayer games, but whether that will convert itself into a victory here has yet to be seen.
Next up, we have Nick 862 against Brennan 4476. Get this next semifinals match underway. Brennan lining up his shooter hood angle before going and grabbing the line. Nick doing the opposite. Will Brennan be able to take out Nick in this setup? We will find out. This was the final matchup of the 12 number 1. Nick, of course, coming out victorious. Will Brennan be able to get the leg up on Nick and dethrone Nick, or will he fail again? 1 minute 55 seconds left. 127. The score is moving so rapidly to 126. It is very close. Brennan may be able to take this, although Brennan taking a little bit of a slower cycle, but an absolutely massive cycle. Going to hopefully get a little bit closer to Nick's score, although Nick is just absolutely destroying Brennan in terms of cycle times. Just grabbing, firing. Brennan taking a little bit longer to grab those power cells, and that is hurting him a little bit as he is now about a cycle behind. 1 minute, 20 seconds left. 195 to 176. Brennan definitely still in this. He could still take this back, although he fires most of those power cells into the outer port, whereas Nick cleanly fires all of his into the inner port. 217 to 195. Brennan grabbing from loading station. Nick grabbing from rendezvous. He appears to still have a ton of balls perfectly spawning in the middle. Brennan having a little lacking in the power cell department, having to go around the field picking up scraps. That is going to hurt him a little bit, not managing his rendezvous super well. 1 minute, 40 seconds left. 283 to 245. Nick is definitely pulling away from this, although it is not impossible for Brennan to come back from this. 30 seconds left. We enter endgame. Neither robot opting to spin the control panel, both going and firing as many power cells as possible. Brennan's hope of winning this match is slowly slipping away from him. Will he be able to upset the 12 king, or will he fail again? 8 seconds left. Both players grabbing their last cycle, putting their climbers up and lining up to the generator switch. Both are up, both are balanced, and that is it. Nick takes this at 389 to 349.
Next match, Nick 862 versus Brennan 4476. This is a battle of the juggernauts for sure. Nick, the leader in terms of high scores for single player, and Brennan has been ranked number 1 in just in terms of multiplayer action various times. But Nick, much faster auto, and jammed a little bit for Brennan there. So Nick has a very solid 30-point lead heading into teleop. But once Brennan is done with the secondary cycle, it's cut down to a little over 10. Nick getting these cycles in quicker than Brennan. Just that autonomous mode for him has just been so good. You've seen that his autonomous mode is just consistently just blows his opponents out of the water here, with the OG bot at least. He has a little over 30-point lead. Brennan with another jam. Wow, loses a few balls there. Not what he wants. Nobody wants to see their hopper jam, especially in a match against someone as good as Nick. I mean, you really have to. Your hopper has to be behaving very, very well in order for you to have a chance against Nick, no matter how good you are, because Nick is just so darn good at this game. It's really hard to catch up, especially if you're having those troubles. Although Brennan's cutting it a little bit close here. He is down probably about half a cycle, but the match was within 4 points there. So The autonomous mode was very good for Nick, but Brennan manages to keep it close. It's very, very far from over. Although I think at this point, Nick extending upon that lead slightly, about 20 points here. We're at under a minute left, although Brennan with this cycle should make it very, very close again. And Nick is just taking that lead right back, although he did have a little bit of troubles with his hopper, it looked like. And Brennan has to hope for more of those in order to have a chance of winning this match. Or some climb issues, which is something that definitely happens. That's another possibility. So match is far from over. It's very, very close, actually. Brennan having a quick cycle here, and look like he has a fuller hopper, and that's going to make it close. Yeah, 14 points, so it's within balance distance here, actually. It wasn't 14 because someone was in the rendezvous. So misbalance could cost the match, but Brennan will have to get the cycle in order for it to be that close. But the climbs are coming up. Oh, but instead of Nick being the one to miss the balance, which is what it would have needed to be to swing the match, it was Brennan. So match was a little closer than the score looks like here. It was closer than 28 points, or at least it felt closer than that. But Nick 862 coming out with a close victory.
Now, this one's going to be a big match. Nick 862, one of the highest scoring players, versus Brennan 4476, possibly the most decorated player in XRC Sim. He's going to be looking for some high scoring matches here. Again, neither of these people here really favoring the Inertia Robot, both known for their OG, but we'll see if they are able to put up some scores. Look like Nick will have the advantage here by a relatively significant margin. It's going to be 11 points early on. And I think that's more to do with Brennan underperforming than Nick performing, but we will see, as with 2 minutes left on the clock, Nick continuing to extend his lead even further. He's going to come up with another cycle to do that again. Brennan with a quick cycle, he went to the human player station. That means it's a lot faster. He's able to make up some of that time that he's lacking. Nick still has those easy power cells to go get should he want, and I think he might do that a little later on, maybe looking to do so closer to the buzzer. For the meantime, though, it is 1 minute and 38 seconds left on the clock. It is 125 to 108. Brennan, though, looking to go to that color wheel after firing off a cycle. That'll give him 10 points. Once he can do that, Nick will respond by doing it as well. They're trying to rotate that panel. Again, you have to rotate it at least 3 times to get your points, no more than 5. Otherwise, you have to start from scratch. Nick 862 going to the red human player station while Brennan firing off the cycles. He's bringing it back closer, but again, Brennan still does not have the advantage he would like with a minute left on the clock. He needs to do something quickly to start biting into that lead from Nick, especially because both go to that color wheel. It's not a special advantage here. 192 to 166 with 55 seconds left on the clock. We're going to see both of them putting up cycles. Nick now going for that quick cycle on the blue human player station. Brennan having to scavenge around the rendezvous zone for his. He puts those up, does do so, but it's 228 to 199. So Nick is just able to further extend that lead that he had at the start of the match and use that to his advantage. Both can now go to positioning should they choose on the color wheel. Looks like they're going to go for one more cycle first, as we see Nick putting up some of his own, and the lead continues to extend here. Brennan just losing that pace, losing that momentum. It's now about a 20-point gap as Nick does a very quick job of that positioning. Brennan putting up those power cells as well. He's going to go for it at the end of the match, but it looks like Nick is holding on here. Another cycle to extend his lead. Brennan trying to do the same. He gets 2 or 3 power cells off, but it's not going to be enough here as Nick had the lead early on and just extended it throughout the match. Slight advantages, really sealing the deal.
After 2 close rounds, Brennan 4476 is outplayed in the endgame and is eliminated from contention. 862 reminds us all why he is the title favorite with a 3-0 performance in the semifinals. Victory is just within his grasp, but he has one more match before it is all said and done. We started off with 12. Now we have 2. Andrew 2137 is a firm believer that records are made to be broken. He's hoping for a final 3 matches that are consistent and competitive to give him a chance at victory. But is he up to the task of taking on the previous 12th champion? In previous matchups, it has been competitive, but what matters is if he brings the heat today. The previous 12 champion is here to defend his position and looks to take home the title for the second time. Nick 862 will be starting the first round on his best robot, but remembering that all 3 count, he will need to perform consistently to create a solid points differential. Thus far, he has been dominant, not dropping a single match to his opponents. Welcome to the finals.
Nick 862 versus Andrew 2137 here. As we've seen through this entire competition, both players have been playing very, very well. Nick's autonomouses have been dominant, however, so we'll see if he can continue that. So Nick, not as good of an autonomous as previously. It's close, but he was just a little bit slower on that. So giving Andrew at least the opportunity to make it very, very close. I mean, Cheliot period. By far the closest autonomous for any of Nick's matches he has had on OG. Nick getting a slightly bigger lead. Andrew having a little bit of trouble with the hopper, and it looked like he missed a couple of shots there, which is not what you want, especially in a match of this magnitude against somebody of this quality. Missing shots is not something that you can afford. Andrew making a couple shots here, putting in a cycle, some hopper troubles, and Nick also having a cycle here, and he does not look like he's having hopper troubles. So 40-point lead for Nick. Andrew's got to mount a comeback here, but it could definitely happen, as we saw in the previous match. Someone came back from, I think, more than 40 points down and made it very, very close. But here it's a little bit more than that, or 50 points, and it was almost exactly 50 points for a few seconds as both players scored at the same time. That's kind of interesting. It's closer, down to 40 for Andrew, so if he cycles like that, keeps doing that, he'll cut it down 10 points at a time, but that hopper jam, like I said earlier, is not something you can afford in this match. Yeah, Nick's just scoring very, very well, something he always does. Andrew's scoring, but he had to release a few balls there. So 80-point lead for Nick. He's got this all but sewn up here, but we'll see if Andrew can mount a comeback. It's just a couple of extra cycles. Missed climb. It's possible at this point, but if Nick climbs, I don't think there's a chance of Andrew coming back, although Andrew's going for the color wheel here, getting those 10 points there. Interesting strategy, as I said before, not necessarily what I would do. And he misses a shot there because he got stuck up on a ball. Yeah, he really needs the cycle and a missed climb for Nick, but we're out of missed climb distance. At this point, it's all wrapped up. Nick is going to be the winner of the OG match for the finals. So nearly 100 points, a very, very big margin victory for Nick. So played very, very well that match. So good job, Nick.
Nick 862 versus Andrew 2137. Now, Andrew here, I think it's fair to say he's a little bit of an underdog. Nick is so well known for his individual scoring capabilities. Andrew is here, though. He has shown up today. Can he hold on to take the title? We will see here, as the first one to strike in autonomous mode is going to be Nick. He is going to have an early advantage, but Andrew is not out yet. He's been scrappy this entire 12, and he is here to play 78-52 with 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock. It's anybody's game as Andrew making his way across the field. A bit of a bump on the guardrail. Will lose some power cells. Will disconnect. He has gone no man's land as Nick 862 looking to just take the advantage, keep cycling as he puts those power cells up. 117 to 52 right now. It looks like Nick is just going to continue extending his advantage. Look at him go. Watch what he can do as Andrew 2137 having some radio issues will look to reconnect to the field. But right now, Nick is taking this one and he's taking it strong. Andrew is back though. He is not going to take this one lying down. Doesn't matter if he had some issues. He is back to play and Nick will go. He will go for that rotation. Andrew firing up some power cells of his own. 64 to 153. What can Andrew do? For him, again, this is just a story of bringing back whatever advantage he can take away from Nick. He will fire off some power cells. Some more coming up for him right now. 181 to 88 as the clock is at a minute left. So Andrew still has plenty of time to get some more power cells. That'll help him with his tiebreaker right now. Nick playing for the win. 205 to 100. Nick cannot get comfortable here. He cannot get complacent. 223 to 100. We've seen issues before when you think you're up. You give up a little bit. He can't be doing that here. So we see him putting up a power cell cycle. We see Andrew going for that color wheel. He got the rotation in 122 to 235. So the lead, not really extending as much. It's just that advantage Nick got early on. 256 to 134. Looks like we're going for cycles all around in the last 30 seconds. Nick is able to do positioning should he choose. We've seen him do it so quickly this entire time as Andrew puts on some power cells of his own. What will he look to do? We see Nick going for positioning. That's an easy 20 points for him. Andrew is doing whatever he can right now. He is fighting for this. That's a full cycle. Some outer, not too bad. With 10 seconds left, he looks to do positioning. It's a perfect time to do it because with 6 seconds left, he can go straight for the climb. Nick coming in very late here. 370 to 240. That's a win for Nick. He holds on. Andrew, just some unluckiness here, and that's going to hurt him, but it's not all over yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RoboTiers Finals. These are two of the best players in the RoboTiers department. Andrew proving his dominance in the RoboTiers category. Nick very close to him as well, although Nick does appear to be ahead of Andrew with 2 minutes remaining, 83 to 74. Both robots lining up and firing into that inner port, both super accurate, although Nick appears to have gotten a few more power cells in his cycle and is 10 points ahead of Andrew. 1 minute, 50 seconds left, 117 to 110. It is very, very close. Andrew still has a very real chance of taking this away from Nick, dethroning the previous 12 champion in the RoboTiers category. Andrew hitting capacity, Nick having done that a while ago, although neither player will go and spin the control panel, both opting for the power cell outscoring strategy, both grabbing from rendezvous, both lining up next to the truss, and both firing. Although Andrew does have a couple of hopper jams, and that will cost him. Obviously not his doing, but it is just unfortunate luck for him. Andrew grabbing a little bit of a smaller cycle than Nick. That is going to hurt him a little bit. Nick 219 to Andrew's 185 with 1 minute remaining in the match. Nick just once again absolutely dominating in cycles. He is just so fast. His arcs around that rendezvous are so smooth, and he is incredibly fast in grabbing power cells, lining up, shooting, and repeating. 45 seconds left of the last RoboTiers match. Andrew grabbing some from the rendezvous, although running out of power cells. Nick having already ran out and going and grabbing the loading station, both firing them off. Andrew opting to grab the loading station now as well. 25 seconds left of this final RoboTiers match. Andrew lining up and firing. Nick grabbing power cells from rendezvous and firing. Nick quite decently far ahead of Andrew. Andrew is going to have to pull off an absolute miracle if he wants to win this match with 10 seconds left. Andrew putting up his climber, but not all the way, as he wants to go grab the last couple balls as the match draws to a close. And Nick putting up his climber and lining up. Andrew climbing, Nick climbing, and that is it. It is over. Nick takes the final match at 4:01 to 3:44.
In the end, it was not meant to be for Andrew 2137, as a series of mistakes and issues stood between him and the title today. Nick 862's performance in the finals served as a reminder for why he is seen as the greatest single player of all time, with a convincing victory on all 3 robots in the round. Today, we started with 12, and we ended with 1. Our victor, Nick 862, outperformed even the most formidable of opponents today through consistency and efficacy on the playing field. Single player is his home turf, and he defended it today with 3 convincing blow-up matches against his competitors. Only time will tell if there is a player capable of defeating him in his element. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.